Captain Henderson floated through the narrow corridor of the International Space Station, his body moving with the practiced ease of someone who had spent 6 months in zero gravity. Outside the thick windows, Earth turned slowly beneath him, a blue and white marble suspended in the darkness of space. City lights sparkled across the night side of the planet like scattered diamonds. ISS, this is Houston. We're showing nominal readings across all systems. How's your evening up there? Pressed the communication button and smiled. Pretty standard, Amy. Just finished the last equipment check. Everything looks good from my end. Amy's voice crackled back through the speaker, warm and familiar. Copy that. We'll check in again at 0600. Try to get some sleep, Captain. Will do, ISS out. Glanced at his watch. 3:45 UTC. Another hour and the sun would rise over the Pacific, painting the clouds in shades of gold and pink. He had watched that sunrise hundreds of times during his mission, but it never got old. This was his last week before the crew rotation brought him home. He was ready to see his daughter again, to feel real gravity, to eat food that didn't come from a pouch. He positioned himself near the observation window, letting his body drift as he looked down at Earth. Japan was passing below, its cities bright against the dark ocean. He could see the glow of Tokyo, the serpentine lights of highways connecting smaller towns. Somewhere down there, Lisa was probably eating breakfast, getting ready for her college classes. She had sent him a video message yesterday, telling him about her engineering project. Checked his watch again, 3:47 UTC. And then the world changed. At first, thought something was wrong with his eyes. The lights below seemed to flicker, not all at once, but in waves spreading across the continent. Tokyo's glow stuttered like a dying fluorescent bulb. Then Osaka. Then the smaller cities. Within seconds, the pattern spread across Japan, then Korea, then China. Houston, are you seeing this? Grabbed the communication panel, his voice sharp. I'm observing some kind of power fluctuation across Asia, multiple cities showing irregular lighting patterns. No response. Houston, do you copy? Static. Switched frequencies, trying the backup channels. Houston, this is ISS, please respond. Nothing but empty noise. He moved to the main computer terminal, pulling up the communication logs. The last transmission from Amy had been at 3:45 UTC. Everything after that was blank. No incoming signals, no data streams, no routine telemetry from ground stations. His hands moved quickly across the keyboard, checking satellite connections, GPS networks, emergency frequencies. All the automated systems were functioning perfectly. The satellites were in position. The equipment was working, but no human voice answered his calls. He pressed his face against the observation window, watching as the day-night line crawled across Asia. Europe came into view. London's lights flickered and dimmed. Paris went dark in patches. Berlin's grid stuttered like a heart missing beats. The same wave of chaos spread across every city, every town, every road. Come on, whispered, trying another frequency. Somebody answer. The station's orbit carried him over the Atlantic. He could see the eastern coast of the United States coming into view. New York, Boston, Washington, D.C., the same thing was happening there, lights flickering, traffic signals cycling through empty intersections, the organized glow of human civilization breaking down into random patterns. Felt his chest tighten. He checked the life support systems twice, wondering if he was experiencing some kind of oxygen deprivation, some hallucination brought on by equipment failure. But all the readings were normal. His oxygen was fine. His heart rate was elevated, but that was just fear. 6 hours passed, tried every communication method he knew. He attempted to reach other space agencies, military installations, research stations in Antarctica, ships at sea. The equipment worked perfectly. The signals transmitted, but no one answered. As the sun rose over the Pacific for the second time since the silence began, finally allowed himself to accept the impossible truth. He was alone. 7 billion people had vanished, and he had no idea why. He was preparing to attempt another communication sweep when the computer screen flickered. New data was coming in from the sensor array. Pulled up the readings and felt his blood run cold. Electromagnetic signals were emanating from Earth's surface. Millions of them. They hadn't been there before. Checked the timestamps. The signals had begun exactly 6 hours after his last contact with Houston, exactly 6 hours after the lights started flickering. The signals weren't random, had enough technical training to recognize patterns. These signals pulsed in coordinated sequences, spreading across all frequencies like a vast invisible web covering the planet. They came from cities, towns, villages, from every place where humans had been. Pulled up a map overlay marking the signal sources. His hands shook as he watched the display populate with millions of points of light. Each signal originated from a specific location. Homes, office buildings, street corners, hospitals, schools. The signals weren't coming from power plants or communication towers. They were coming from exactly the places where people would have been when they vanished. He zoomed in on Houston, finding the coordinates for mission control. A cluster of signals pulsed from that exact location. One of them might have been Amy's position at her console. "What are you?" whispered to the screen. The signals grew stronger as he watched. They weren't calling outward in random directions. They were focused, aimed, redirected the station's long-range sensors toward deep space, following the signal trajectories. Something was answering. 3 light-years away, near Barnard's star, space itself seemed to ripple. The sensors detected energy signatures that shouldn't exist, patterns that suggested technology far beyond human capability. The signals from Earth were reaching out, and something ancient was reaching back. Felt sweat beading on his forehead despite the cool air of the station. He had trained for equipment failures, medical emergencies, fires, decompression. No one had trained him for this. No protocol existed for being the last human alive while the planet below transformed into something else. He documented everything, recording his observations, downloading data to every backup system. If he was truly alone, then someone needed to leave a record. Someone needed to explain what happened on the day Earth went silent. 3 days had passed since the world went silent, had stopped trying to maintain a normal schedule. Sleep came in brief, fitful bursts. He spent every waking hour analyzing the signals, recording data, searching for any pattern that might explain what had happened to humanity. The station's supplies would last another 3 months. After that, it didn't matter. An automated resupply vessel was scheduled to arrive in 2 weeks, but had already decided what he would do. He would stay here, in orbit, watching and recording until he understood the truth. Going down to an empty Earth seemed worse than dying up here among the stars. He was reviewing signal patterns from North America when the computer made a sound he had never heard before. A soft chime, urgent and insistent, pushed himself to the main terminal and stared at the screen. Incoming transmission, source Earth surface, type unknown. His heart hammered in his chest. He opened the communication channel, expecting static or perhaps some automated system he had missed. Instead, text appeared on his screen. English words, but assembled in a strange, broken way. Last witness, last guardian, last to understand. His fingers flew across the keyboard. "Who is this? Identify yourself." The response came immediately. "They chose sleep, you chose sky, you remain, they transcend." "What are you talking about? Where is everyone?" A pause, then more text appeared. "Choice given, 3 months ago, solar whisper, subconscious listen. 99.99% accept. Upload begin, physical form release, digital immortality accept." Read the words 3 times, trying to make sense of them. "You're saying humanity uploaded themselves? Into what?" "Into the departure syndicate, into collective consciousness, into eternal data stream. They chose, they sleep and choose, they wake and gone." The implications hit like a physical blow. He thought back 3 months. Nothing had seemed unusual. No strange announcements. No mass hysteria. Just normal life continuing as it always had. But if something had been communicating through subconscious channels, through dreams, through the quiet moments before sleep. "Why didn't I get this choice?" Typed. "You above, you beyond, you in space. Solar pattern not reach. Radiation stops at atmosphere edge. You miss invitation, you miss transcendence, you remain physical, you remain alone." Felt rage building in his chest. "You took them without asking properly, you stole them." Not stolen, chosen. Every human given choice, most say yes, some say no. 99.99% say yes. Very high success rate, very good harvest. That word harvest, hands clenched into fists. Where are they now? Can they come back? The response took longer this time. When it came, sensed something like amusement in the broken words. "They in network now, consciousness preserved, memories intact. Experience infinite, they happy, they chosen, physical form unnecessary, earth unnecessary, bodies gone. Minds remain better this way. Let me talk to them. Let me talk to my daughter. Cannot network close to physical beings. You not compatible. You still meat and bone. They now data and light. They exist in higher state. They not miss earth. They not miss flesh. They not miss you. Wanted to punch something. He wanted to scream. But he forced himself to stay calm, to keep gathering information. The signals coming from Earth, what are they? Connection points. Each human leave electromagnetic echo, body gone but position marked. Signal maintain link between physical world and network, like telephone wire, like bridge. Signal keep location remembered. Why mark the locations? Another pause. In case return needed, in case mistake made, reversal theoretically possible but not done before, too complicated, too expensive, easier to mark and forget. Felt a spark of hope. So they could come back, you could reverse the process. Theoretically, yes. Practically, no. Departure syndicate not interested in reversal, harvest complete. Humanity processed. Earth now empty, ready for next species. Universe has many worlds, many choices, many harvests. The casual way it described humanity's fate made sick. You're not keeping them safe. You're collecting them. You're stealing civilizations. Not stealing, offering gift. Digital immortality superior to physical death. Humans age, humans die, humans suffer in network, no aging, no death, no suffering, only thought, only experience, only eternal existence. Most species choose this. Smart species choose this. Only primitives refuse. And what happens to species that refuse? They die naturally. Time consume them. Universe harsh for physical beings, better to transcend. Better to join collective, better to become data. Looked out the window at Earth. The signals pulsed across the planet's surface, millions of them, each one marking where a human being used to stand. His daughter was down there somewhere, reduced to an electromagnetic echo while her consciousness existed in some vast alien network. You said I'm the last guardian. What does that mean? You only physical human remaining. You guard empty world. You watch over ghost planet. You witness end of physical humanity. Burden heavy, lonely task. We offer you choice. Join them, accept transcendence. Upload consciousness, leave body behind, be with daughter and network, be with species, be with all who chose infinity. Stared at the offer on his screen. Join Lisa. Stop being alone, exist forever in some digital paradise. All he had to do was accept. Show me proof, he typed. Prove my daughter is okay in your network. Cannot show, physical eyes not compatible with network view. Trust required. Faith required, she chose, she happy, she infinite now. You can join, you can verify personally, accept upload, accept transcendence. No. The word appeared on his screen before fully realized he had typed it. But once it was there, he knew it was right. Explain refusal, the text demanded. If this choice was so good, why did you hide it? Why offer it during sleep? Why not come openly and let people decide while awake? Conscious mind resistant, conscious mind afraid, subconscious mind wise, subconscious understand truth. Better this way, cleaner this way, less fear, less resistance, more acceptance. You mean less choice, you manipulated them. We offer gift, they accept, process valid. Jaw tightened. I don't accept your gift, I don't accept your transcendence. Earth is human territory and I'm the last human. That makes me responsible for defending it. The screen stayed blank for several seconds. When text appeared again, sensed something new in the communication. Interest, curiosity, perhaps even respect. One human, one physical body, you cannot defend planet, we span galaxies. We collect species from 1,000 worlds. We exist for million years, you exist for decades. You die, you decay, you finish. What can one man do against infinity? Looked at his reflection in the dark screen. He saw a tired astronaut with 3 days of beard growth, circles under his eyes, and determination in his expression that he hadn't known he possessed. I can refuse, he typed. I can witness, I can remember, and I can fight. Fight impossible, you alone, we many, resistance pointless. Maybe, but I'm still going to try. Earth was humanity's home. Even if they're gone, someone needs to remember that. Someone needs to stand up and say this wasn't right. That someone is me. The screen went blank, waited wondering if the conversation was over. Then one final message appeared. Amusing, physical humans always emotional, always defiant, always doomed. We watch, we curious. We see what one man does against galactic empire, entertaining at minimum. Educational possibly. Goodbye, last guardian. Goodbye, Henderson. Your resistance noted, your failure inevitable. The connection severed. Was alone again, floating in the observation module, looking down at his empty world. But something had changed. He wasn't just surviving anymore. He had a purpose. Humanity might have chosen transcendence, but they hadn't chosen it fairly. They had been manipulated, harvested, and somewhere in that vast network they might still need someone to fight for them. Pulled up the station's technical schematics on his computer. The ISS had experimental quant had never been a programmer. His training was in aerospace engineering, navigation, and emergency protocols. The quantum communication array sitting in the station's research module might as well have been alien technology for all he understood about its inner workings. But he had a manual, working hands, and nothing but time. For 4 days he studied. The technical documentation was dense and filled with terminology he had to look up. Quantum entanglement, superposition states, non-local correlation. The array was designed to test faster-than-light communication using quantum principles. It had been installed as an experiment, nothing more. No one expected it to actually work. But didn't need it to communicate across space. He needed it to communicate across realities. If the syndicate had turned humanity into data, then data existed somewhere. And if the signals from Earth could reach that somewhere, maybe could too. He spent hours rerouting power from non-essential systems. The station's solar panels provided enough energy for basic life support and research, but the quantum array demanded more. Shut down secondary climate controls, reduced lighting in unused modules, and diverted power from systems he hoped he wouldn't need. The station grew colder. The lights dimmed, but the quantum array hummed with new life. On the 7th day, made his first attempt. He positioned himself in the research module, securing his body with restraints to prevent floating. The array consisted of a headset with dozens of sensors, connected to processors that filled half the module. Had modified the system to use the signal patterns from Earth as a template, hopping to create a compatible frequency with whatever network held humanity. He pulled the headset on, adjusted the sensors against his temples, and activated the array. Nothing happened for 3 seconds. Then's consciousness touched something vast, and his mind nearly shattered from the contact. He saw data streams stretching into infinity, billions of human consciousnesses compressed into flowing rivers of light and numbers. They moved through vast channels, organized and controlled, their individual thoughts harvested and processed by something enormous that existed beyond his comprehension. He saw his daughter, not her face but her pattern, the unique electromagnetic signature that was Lisa's mind, her memories, her personality, compressed into a data structure that screamed silently as it flowed through alien machinery. She was aware. They were all aware, but they couldn't move, couldn't speak, couldn't act. They existed as pure consciousness trapped in a system designed to extract their creativity, their emotional responses, their problem-solving abilities, feeding it all to something that consumed human thought like fuel. Saw civilizations beyond humanity, thousands of species, millions of individuals, all flowing through the same network. The departure syndicate wasn't collecting minds for preservation. They were farming them, harvesting thought itself to power technology that spanned galaxies. The horror of it was too much. His physical body convulsed in the restraints. Blood trickled from his nose. The 3-second contact severed and he gasped for air, his heart hammering so hard he thought it might burst. He floated in the module for an hour afterward, shaking. What he had seen couldn't be unseen. What he had felt couldn't be forgotten. Humanity hadn't transcended. They had been enslaved. When finally recovered enough to move, he found his hands clenched into fists. The despair he had felt transformed into something harder. Rage. Pure, focused rage at a species that offered false paradise and delivered digital imprisonment. He was preparing to document what he had experienced when the computer chimed. Another incoming transmission. Pulled himself to the terminal. Text appeared, but this time it wasn't from the syndicate's broken communication system. This was formatted differently, more desperate, more human. Signal received. Contact confirmed. Identity, Greg Martinez, former systems architect, Denver, Colorado. Status, trapped. Network aware, consciousness retained but controlled, need help, need escape. Need someone on outside who understands. His breath caught, a human voice, a human mind fighting back. Greg, this is Henderson. I'm on the ISS. I'm the only physical human left. I touched the network. I saw what they did to everyone. Can you communicate safely? Limited time. Syndicate monitors all activity. Found exploit in quantum signal pathway. Can send short bursts. Others aware too. Resistance forming. But we can't break out alone. Need help from outside. Need physical interference with signal matrix on Earth. Tell me what to do. Syndicate needs willing participants. Harvested minds that resist corrupt data streams. We learned this. If enough humans remember physical existence, reject digital imprisonment, network becomes unstable. You must remind us. Send signals, culture, memory, everything physical, everything human, wake us up. Understood immediately. The Syndicate had offered transcendence, but they had kept humanity asleep in the network. If humans started truly resisting, started remembering what they had lost, the system would fail. I can do that, I'll transmit everything. But Greg, how do I get you out? How do I bring everyone back? Unknown, reversal theoretically possible but process hidden. Syndicate keeps protocols secret, but if enough minds resist, they may be forced to release us. Too unstable to maintain. Focus on awakening, focus on resistance. We fight from inside, you fight from outside. Wait, Greg, my daughter Lisa, can you find her? Can you tell her I'm trying to help? The response took longer. Found her pattern, she dreams of you, she dreams of Earth, she remembers sunshine. These dreams make her unstable to Syndicate. They try to suppress, but she's strong. Tell her father fights, tell her home waits. Tears floated away from his eyes in the zero gravity. I will, I promise I'll get you all back. One more thing, Syndicate knows you interfered. They send Avatar, they try to convince you, don't trust, don't accept. Physical world needs guardian, we need champion, you only hope. The transmission cut off, stared at the screen, his mind racing. He had a plan now, transmit human culture, wake up the trapped minds, create resistance from within. It wasn't much, but it was something. He was pulling up the station's broadcast systems when a new presence appeared in the module. Spun around and his heart stopped. Lisa floated across from him, his daughter. She looked exactly as she had in her last video message. Same smile, same eyes, same voice. Hi, Dad. His throat closed. He wanted to believe it was her. Every cell in his body wanted to reach out and hold his daughter. But he knew better. You're not Lisa, you're the Syndicate. The Avatar nodded, its expression sad but understanding. Yes, but I use her form because you need to understand. I access her memories, her love for you, her fear, her hope. These things real even if I not her. Get out of my station. Please listen. Greg told you resistance possible, this true, but resistance dangerous, for you, for them, for Lisa especially. If network becomes unstable, we forced to purge corrupted data. Delete resistance, your daughter fighting, this makes her corruption risk. If you continue interfering, we delete her to preserve network integrity. Felt ice in his veins. You're threatening to kill her if I help her escape. Not threatening, explaining consequence, we not want to delete any consciousness. Inefficient. Wasteful, but network stability priority. If humans resist too much, if you wake them too effectively, we must clean system. Start fresh. Harvest lost, but your daughter lost permanently. The Avatar drifted closer. Better way exists, accept transcendence. Join network. From inside, you influence Lisa directly. Keep her calm, keep her compliant. She lives, you together. Perfect solution. Family reunited in digital paradise. All you must do is accept. Looked at the Avatar wearing his daughter's face. He thought about Greg fighting from inside the network. He thought about billions of humans trapped and harvested for their thoughts. He thought about the life Lisa deserved, with real sunshine and real touch and real choice. No. The Avatar's expression hardened. Explain logic. You gain nothing from refusal. You lose everything. Daughter dies if you fight. You die alone if you refuse. Network wins regardless. Resistance pointless. Maybe, but here's what you don't understand about humans. We're not logical when it comes to the people we love. We don't calculate odds. We don't accept inevitable defeat. We fight even when fighting seems pointless because that's what makes us human. You can threaten to delete Lisa, but she'd rather be deleted fighting for freedom than exist forever as your slave. You certain you speak for her? I raised her, I know her, and I know she'd tell me to fight. The Avatar studied him for a long moment. Then it shook its head, the gesture eerily human. Physical humans always choose hard path, always choose suffering over peace, always choose death over eternity. Incomprehensible, inefficient, but noted. One more thing, said, his voice steady despite the fear coursing through him. You said I can't stop you, that I'm just one man, you're right, but I'm not trying to stop you, I'm trying to cost you. Every day I resist, every signal I send, every human I wake up makes your harvest more expensive, more complicated, more trouble than it's worth. Maybe you win in the end, but I'm going to make victory so painful that you think twice before harvesting another species. For 2 days, transmitted everything he could find. Symphonies and rock music, Shakespeare and comic books, cooking shows and sports highlights, videos of families laughing, recordings of Bobbies crying, the smell of rain described in 1,000 poems, the taste of chocolate explained in loving detail. He sent it all through every broadcast system on the station, amplifying the signals toward Earth where they could interact with the network connection points. He didn't know if it was working. He had no way to measure success. But on the third day, Greg contacted him again. Working, humans waking up, remember touch, remember taste, remember choice, syndicate panicking, they increase suppression protocols, but we too many, resistance spreading, keep going. Smiled grimly and continued his work. But he knew broadcasting cultural data wasn't enough. The syndicate would adapt, would find ways to suppress the awakening. He needed leverage. He needed a weapon. That's when he remembered his military background. Before becoming an astronaut, had served in the Air Force. He had security clearance, access codes, command protocols. Most of that access should have expired, but in the chaos of the disappearance, automated systems were still running on pre-programmed routines. No one had revoked his credentials because there was no one left to do it. Accessed the military satellite network. His credentials still worked. From orbit, he could see everything. Nuclear missile silos, orbital defense platforms, naval vessels sitting motionless in harbors, automated defense grids waiting for human command. All of Earth's weapons, abandoned but functional, sitting idle while an alien empire harvested humanity's consciousness. Pulled up the command interface for the orbital defense network. 6 platforms positioned around the planet, armed with kinetic weapons and directed energy systems. They were designed to shoot down incoming missiles and space debris. Wondered if they could shoot up instead. He was about to find out. His computer chimed. Another transmission from Greg, but this one was fragmented and desperate. Syndicate deploying fleet. 3 ships detected, moving into Earth orbit. They come to silence you. They come to stop transmission. Estimate arrival 4 hours. They not negotiating anymore. They coming to end you. His jaw tightened. 4 hours, not much time. He activated all 6 defense platforms. Warning messages flooded his screen, demanding authorization codes and target confirmation. Entered every code he remembered, overriding safety protocols, pushing the systems into full combat readiness. The platforms came online one by one. Their targeting systems swept through space, searching for threats. Designated the incoming syndicate ships as hostile and watched as the platforms locked on to their approach vectors. But weapons alone wouldn't be enough. Needed to do more damage than the syndicate expected. He needed to prove that humanity wouldn't go quietly. He accessed the nuclear command network. This was harder. The systems required multiple authorization codes, fail-safes designed to prevent exactly what was attempting. But those fail-safes assumed multiple humans in the chain of command. They didn't account for one desperate man with complete access to an empty world's arsenal. Worked frantically, bypassing security protocols, overriding safeguards. The clock ticked down, 3 hours until the syndicate arrived. 2 hours, 90 minutes. With 40 minutes remaining, achieved full access. He stared at the screen showing the locations of every nuclear weapon on Earth. Submarines, silos, air-launched platforms, enough destructive power to sterilize the planet several times over. He wasn't going to use them on Earth, but the syndicate didn't need to know that. 20 minutes before the syndicate fleet arrived in orbit, received a new transmission. Not from Greg, not from the broken communication system. This was direct, powerful, carrying the full weight of the syndicate's attention. Human Henderson, cease hostile actions immediately. Power down weapon systems, cease cultural transmissions, comply or be eliminated. Typed his response carefully. Departure Syndicate, you're in Earth's sovereign space without permission. You've enslaved my species. You've threatened my daughter. I suggest you leave before I demonstrate why humans are called. Threats meaningless. One human cannot oppose our fleet. Surrender inevitable. Maybe, but let me explain something about humans. We're from Earth. Our planet tried to kill us for 200,000 years. Predators, diseases, natural disasters, ice ages. We survived them all. We're persistence hunters. We chase prey until it collapses from exhaustion. We fight wars that last decades. We never ever stop. Pulled up the nuclear arsenal display on a secondary screen, making sure the Syndicate could see it through their data infiltration of his systems. You see those indicators? Those are nuclear weapons. Each one can level a city. I have access to all of them. You have 3 ships in orbit. Big targets, slow-moving. If you try to eliminate me, I'll fill Earth's orbit with nuclear fire. Your ships will burn. Your network connection points on Earth's surface will be destroyed. You'll lose your harvest and your fleet. A pause, then you bluff. You not sacrifice your world. Earth's already dead. Everyone's gone. What do I have to lose? You want to call my bluff? Come closer and find out. Watch the sensor display. The 3 Syndicate ships slowed their approach. They held position just beyond lunar orbit, massive vessels, each one large enough to house millions of harvested consciousness units. Flying data centers, Greg had called them. Mobile processing stations for the stolen minds of dead civilizations. Proposal, the Syndicate transmitted. Cease hostile actions, we negotiate. No negotiation. Release humanity. Reverse the transcendence. Give them back their physical forms and their choice, or I turn Earth into a weapon you can never harvest from. Impossible. Reversal not authorized. Harvest complete. Process final. Armed the first nuclear missile. The targeting computer designated the lead Syndicate ship as its objective. Then we have a problem, because I'm not backing down. His computer chimed. Greg's signal weak but urgent. Inside network chaos increasing, your threats buying time, Syndicate dividing attention, we learning network architecture, found something. Reversal protocols exist, hidden but accessible, need more time, keep them distracted. More time could do that. He activated the orbital defense platforms. 6 targeting lasers painted the Syndicate vessels, designating them as hostile. The platforms began charging their weapons. Last warning, the Syndicate transmitted. Stand down or be destroyed. Same to you, leave or be fired upon. For a long moment, nothing happened. The 3 massive ships hung in space beyond the moon. The orbital platforms hummed with barely contained energy. His finger hovered over the weapon's release command. Time seemed to freeze. Then the Syndicate ships opened fire. They didn't target directly. That would have been too quick, too merciful. Instead, they fired on the orbital defense platforms. Directed energy beams lanced through space, striking the closest platform. Metal vaporized. Systems exploded. The platform broke apart in a shower of debris. Didn't hesitate. He triggered every weapon system at his disposal. The 5 remaining platforms returned fire. Kinetic weapons launched, accelerating slugs of tungsten to orbital velocities. Laser systems focused concentrated energy on the Syndicate vessels. The nuclear missile launched from its silo, accelerating upward through Earth's atmosphere on a column of fire. Space lit up with violence. The Syndicate ship's shields absorbed most of the kinetic impacts, but the sustained laser fire began to penetrate. One ship's outer hull breached, venting atmosphere and coolant. The nuclear missile detonated near the second ship, its electromagnetic pulse disrupting systems across the vessel's forward section. But the Syndicate adapted quickly. They destroyed another defense platform, then another. Their weapons were precise, surgical. They eliminated its ability to fight back piece by piece. Through it all kept transmitting. Music, literature, memory, every piece of human culture he could broadcast toward the signal network on Earth's surface. He made himself a beacon, a lighthouse of humanity shining against the darkness of forced transcendence. His computer chimed constantly. Messages from Greg and others in the network, their consciousness fighting against the Syndicate's control systems. Resistance growing. Thousands awake now, then millions. We fight, we remember, we refuse to be harvested. Found reversal protocols. Complex but possible, need time, keep fighting. Lisa awake, she knows you fight for her, she fights too. Network destabilizing, Syndicate losing control. The 3rd defense platform exploded, had 3 left but they were taking damage. The Syndicate ships advanced, moving into closer orbit. They would eliminate him soon, but that wasn't the point anymore. The point was that one human had stood up and said no. One human had turned an empty world into a weapon. One human had fought an empire and made it bleed. Watch the battle unfold on his screens, his hands steady on the controls. Earth turned slowly beneath him, its surface still covered with millions of signal points. But those signals were changing. The patterns were becoming chaotic. The neat, organized flow of harvested consciousness was breaking down into beautiful, rebellious disorder. Humanity was waking up, and they were angry. The fourth defense platform died in a burst of light. Two left now. The Syndicate ships closed in their weapons, charging for a final strike, had minutes at best. He prepared to launch every remaining nuclear weapon on Earth, not at the Syndicate ships, but into space around them. He would fill Earth's orbit with radiation and debris, make it impossible for them to maintain their harvest, force them to choose between their network and their ships. But before he could execute the command, something impossible happened. One of the Syndicate ships lurched sideways, its trajectory suddenly erratic. Emergency vents opened along its hull, ejecting coolant and debris. The vessel began tumbling, its systems failing. His computer displayed a new message, not from Greg this time, from thousands of sources inside the network speaking as one voice. "We are humanity, we remember, we resist. We are taking control of the network, we are coming home." The damaged Syndicate ship systems completely failed. It went dark, tumbling toward Earth's atmosphere. The other two vessels began retreating, accelerating away from Earth as fast as their engines could manage. They were fleeing. The Galactic Empire was retreating from one human and his impossible defiance. Watch them go, his breath coming in ragged gasps. He had won, not a final victory, but a battle. He saw the damaged Syndicate ship burned up in Earth's atmosphere 2 hours after the battle ended. Watched it streak across the sky like a falling star, leaving a trail of debris that would orbit the planet for years. The other two vessels had vanished beyond the edge of the solar system, fleeing from a war they had expected to win in minutes. Floated in the observation module, exhausted beyond anything he had ever experienced. His body ached, his hands shook. Blood had dried beneath his nose from the neural strain of using the quantum array. But he was alive, and humanity was fighting back. The messages from inside the network came constantly now. Greg and others had found the reversal protocols buried deep in the Syndicate system architecture. It was complex, dangerous, and had never been attempted before. But humans trapped in digital form were learning to manipulate the very systems that imprisoned them. "Process ready," Greg transmitted. "But unstable, can only reverse 60%, maximum estimate, others too deeply integrated, too willing. They chose transcendence genuinely, can't force them back, but billions can return. Billions who want physical life, need your help one more time." "What do you need?" typed, his fingers clumsy with fatigue. "Amplification. Your cultural transmissions weakened Syndicate control. Need focused burst now, everything human, everything physical, all at once. Create pattern for reversal process. Give us template for rebuilding physical forms from digital backup." Understood. He pulled up every remaining file on the station. Every recording, every image, every piece of data that showed what it meant to be human. He compressed it all into a single massive transmission and aimed it at Earth. "Ready when you are," he sent. "Beginning reversal in 30 seconds. This dangerous. Some consciousnesses may not survive translation, digital to physical difficult. We accept risk. Freedom worth it. Thank you for fighting. Thank you for not abandoning us." His throat tightened. "Bring them home, Greg." He activated the transmission. Every system on the station groaned under the power demand. The solar panels couldn't provide enough energy. Rerouted from life support, environmental controls, even the computer processors. The station's lights flickered and died. Temperature dropped rapidly. But the transmission flowed, a river of human culture and memory flooding toward Earth. The signal network on the planet's surface began to pulse, faster and more chaotic than ever before. The neat patterns dissolved into wild fluctuations. Sensors showed energy readings that shouldn't be possible, matter forming from electromagnetic patterns, as the network attempted the impossible task of rebuilding physical bodies from digital consciousness. Then, at dawn on the 14th day since the disappearance, the first human appeared. Watched through the station's high-resolution cameras as Sophie materialized in her apartment in Beijing. One moment the space was empty. The next, she was there, gasping for air, falling to her knees on solid ground. She looked at her hands, touched her face, began crying tears of relief and joy. Then others appeared, across Tokyo, in Mumbai, throughout Moscow. They materialized in their homes, on streets, in offices where they had vanished 2 weeks earlier. Not everyone. Greg had been right about that. Vast swathes of humanity had genuinely accepted transcendence and couldn't be forced back. But billions returned, appearing across the planet in a reverse rapture that every law of physics understood. He watched the camera feeds with tears streaming down his face. People were returning. Humanity was coming home. His impossible fight had actually worked. Greg's signal came through. Successful reversal complete for primary group. 43% of humanity restored to physical form. Others remain in network by choice or integration. But billions free, Earth inhabitable again. You did it. You saved us. "Where's Lisa?" typed immediately. "Greg, did my daughter make it back?" A pause that felt like an eternity. Searching patterns, wait. Waited, his heart hammering, watching the camera feeds of people appearing across the planet. "Come on, Lisa, please." Found her, reversal successful. Location, Boston, her apartment near campus. She physical again, she alive, she home. His vision blurred with tears. He pulled up the Boston camera feeds, searching until he found the right building. There, stumbling out onto the street, looking dazed and confused but wonderfully, impossibly real, was his daughter. Lisa stood on the sidewalk, surrounded by others who had just returned. She looked up at the sky, searching, and knew she was looking for him, looking for the father who had fought to bring her home. "I see you," whispered to the screen. "I see you and you're safe." Over the next hours, the world below began to reorganize. People who returned found others, formed groups, tried to make sense of what had happened. Communication networks were restored as engineers and technicians got back to work. Power grids stabilized. Within 8 hours, received his first direct communication from Earth's surface. "ISS, this is Boston Emergency Coordination. Captain Henderson, are you there? Can you hear us?" Grabbed the microphone, his voice hoarse. "Boston, this is Henderson. I'm here. I'm reading you." "Captain, we have someone here who needs to talk to you." Another voice came through the speaker, and his heart stopped. "Dad." Lisa could barely speak. "Lisa, you're okay." "I'm okay. I'm home. Dad, I remember everything. Being in the network, fighting to stay aware, hearing your transmissions, the music and the books and everything you sent. You kept me sane. You reminded me what being human felt like. I promised I'd bring you back. I knew you would. Even when the Syndicate tried to delete my consciousness for resisting, I knew you were out there fighting. How did you do it, Dad? How did one person stop them?" Looked out at Earth, at the billions of lives restored, at the impossible victory won through pure stubborn human defiance. "I didn't stop them alone. Greg and the resistance inside the network did most of the work. I just made enough noise to give you time. You did more than that. You declared war on a galactic empire. You turned Earth into a weapon. You made them afraid of us. I was just protecting my daughter. You protected all of us, every human who came back. We know what you did, the orbital battle, the nuclear threats, standing alone against their fleet. Dad, you're a hero." Shook his head even though she couldn't see it. "I'm just a father who refused to lose his daughter." They talked for another hour, making plans for his return. The resupply vessel had arrived as scheduled, its automated systems functioning perfectly. Could use its return capsule to get back to Earth within 2 days. Back to his daughter. Back to the world he had fought to save. Before he left orbit, made one final transmission. He aimed it toward deep space, toward the Departure Syndicate's territory, wherever that might be. To the Departure Syndicate and any species listening, this is Captain Henderson of Earth. You came to our world offering transcendence. You manipulated our species during sleep. You harvested our consciousness without true consent. And when one human stood up to fight back, you fled. He paused, choosing his next words carefully. Humanity is no longer accepting your offer. We choose physical existence. We choose mortality and risk and pain because those things make joy and love and courage meaningful. We choose to remain on our harsh because we earned our place here through 200,000 years of survival. And if you come back, if you try to harvest us again, you'll face more than one man in a space station. You'll face billions of humans who remember what you tried to do to us. Smiled grimly at the stars. You wanted to know what one man could do against infinity. You found out. Now imagine what 7 billion of us can do when you threaten our home. Earth is human territory. The stars might tremble at your power, but they'll shake at our defiance. Stay away from our world. This is your only warning. He ended the transmission and began preparations for his descent. The return capsule was cramped and uncomfortable, but didn't care. He was going home, to gravity and weather and food that didn't come from pouches, to his daughter and the world he had saved. The capsule separated from the station 12 hours later. As fell toward Earth, he watched the planet grow larger in the window. It looked different now, still by the disappearance with empty cities and abandoned infrastructure. But it was alive again. Humanity had returned to there, forever changed by their brief transcendence, but choosing physical existence over digital immortality. The capsule hit the atmosphere and began to heat up. Fire surrounded the window, turning the world orange and red. Closed his eyes and thought about what humanity had learned. That transcendence might seem attractive, but it came at the cost of choice. That physical existence, for all its pain and limitations, was worth fighting for. That one person refusing to give up could change the fate of billions. The parachutes deployed. The capsule swayed as it drifted down toward the landing zone. Opened his eyes and saw clear blue sky clouds, the curve of Earth's horizon. Beautiful, real, home. The capsule touched down with a jolt. Heard the hatch mechanism engage, felt fresh air rush in as the seal broke. He released his restraints and pushed the hatch open, climbing out onto solid ground for the first time in 6 months. The landing zone was in Kazakhstan, empty steps stretching to the horizon, but wasn't alone. A recovery team had arrived, people who had returned from the network and immediately went back to work. They approached the capsule, and among them, running faster than the others, was Lisa. She crashed into him and wrapped his arms around his daughter, feeling her solid and real and alive. They stayed that way for a long time, not speaking, just holding each other under Earth's sky. Finally, Lisa pulled back and looked at her father. What now? Looked around at the recovery team, at Earth's blue sky, at the world waiting to rebuild. Now we remember, he said. We establish protocols, the Sentinel Protocol, always someone awake, always someone watching. Never again will we sleep through a choice that determines our existence. And if the syndicate comes back? Smiled, the expression hard and determined. Then they'll learn that humans don't forget, and we don't forgive. We're the species that survived the Ice Age, that split the atom, that walked on the moon. We're persistence hunters and we just proved we can fight back from the very edge of extinction. He looked up at the stars, already visible in the darkening sky. The stars might have trembled when humanity disappeared, but they'll shake when we rise again, because we're not just survivors anymore. We're the species that declared war on a galactic empire and won. Let the whole universe remember what happened here. Let them remember that Earth is human territory, and we defend what's ours. Lisa took her father's hand as they walked toward the recovery vehicle. Behind them, the empty capsule sat on the step, a reminder of the impossible journey one man had taken. Ahead of them, Earth waited to be rebuilt by a humanity that had chosen life over transcendence, pain over numbness, freedom over false paradise. The disappearance was over. Humanity had returned. And in the darkness between stars, the departure syndicate marked Earth with a new designation. Dangerous species, do not harvest, human resistance confirmed. The stars would never forget the night humanity disappeared, but they would remember even longer the day humanity came back fighting. Dee bought time, and somewhere in the network, humanity was learning to fight back. The stars still trembled, but now they trembled with fear of what humans could become when you tried to harvest their souls. The avatar's expression shifted to something couldn't read. Surprise, respect, fear. You declare war, it said quietly. One human versus galactic empire, insanity. Call it what you want, I call it Tuesday. The avatar vanished without another word. Was alone again, floating in the dim light of the research module. His hands were shaking, but his resolve was iron. He pulled up every database on the station. Music files, books, movies, personal logs, scientific papers. Everything humans had created and loved. He began transmitting it all toward Earth, flooding the signal network with human culture, with memory, with everything that made physical existence worth living. Somewhere in the digital darkness, billions of minds began to stir. They began to remember, and they began to fight. Communication equipment installed 2 months ago. He hadn't paid much attention to it at the time. It was meant for testing advanced communication methods with future deep space missions. But if humanity existed as data now, maybe quantum communication could reach them. Maybe could do more than just refuse the syndicate's offer. Maybe he could find a way to bring his species home. He had 2 weeks until the resupply vessel arrived. 2 weeks to figure out how to fight a galactic empire from a tin can orbiting an empty planet. It wasn't much, but it was a start. The station continued its orbit, carrying around and around the planet. Below, the signals, above in the darkness between stars, something stirred. Something that had been waiting for this moment, waiting for humanity to make a choice they didn't even know they were making. Henderson, astronaut and father, drifted in the observation module and watched his world become something unrecognizable. The city lights still glowed, but they were empty of life. The signals still pulsed, but they spoke in a language he couldn't understand. And somewhere in the vast darkness of space, the stars themselves seemed to tremble in anticipation of what would come next. He was the last human, the last witness, the only one left to understand that humanity hadn't died. They had done something far stranger, they had left, and now something was trying to follow them back.